We have interesting new developments to discuss this time concerning the El Niño situation. Last month, we had sea surface temperatures that were pretty much above the threshold to be called El Niño levels, but the atmosphere wasn't participating. Well, this month, we have a little bit of a reversal. The sea surface temperatures have weakened, and the last few weeks, some of those weeks have been below the threshold of El Niño. So we were questioning sea surface temperature participation, but the big event was that the atmosphere has finally started kicking in. Now we have thunderstorm activity above average right near the international date line along the equator, and it's fairly strongly above average. Last time it was more to the west of the date line. Now it looks like it's in a position so we can call it a Central Pacific type atmospheric El Niño pattern. And along with that, the westerly wind anomalies have increased in the western and central Pacific. So we're getting the low-level winds looking more El Niño-like. And the Southern Oscillation Index, which had looked not at all like an El Niño pattern the last 3 months, finally this month have switched over to being negative, which is the direction for an El Niño. Because the atmosphere looks more El Niño-like now, and the sea surface temperature didn't really go much below the threshold except for a few weeks, we declared an El Niño advisory last week. In other words, we think El Niño is here. It's a weak El Niño, to be sure. But we think for the first time it's here, and models are predicting that it will slightly strengthen over the next few weeks. And we're saying there's a 50 to 60% chance that we will have El Niño conditions in the March through May season. And that, combined with the elevated SSTs we had during the fall, should give us a full-fledged weak El Niño episode that we can look back on. The thing is, though, about the climate impacts, since we're this late in the season, they won't be as marked as they normally would be expected to be, because our first forecast season is March through May. That's off-season for the greatest climate impacts, except for certain places like northeast Brazil. So our signal in the climate forecast is not that strong. An exception, though, where it is still strong is Indonesia, with a tendency to be dry. Northern Australia, same thing. Boy, they've had a lot of hot weather and drought in Australia. Incredible. And the Philippines, same direction, dry. But other than that, we don't have very strong signals. The southern part of the U.S. is predicted to have a weak tilt of the odds toward above average precipitation for March through May. A few other places like northeastern Brazil, which should have below a tendency toward dry with El Niño, is not, because the Atlantic Ocean right off their shore is above average, and that outweighs the impact of El Niño. So they're actually expecting a little bit of a wettish March through May. Other than that, the effects are quite weak. We're late in the season. We're expecting to just squeak by with a weak El Niño officially that will be in the books that way, and we'll see what happens. So that's sort of an unexpected, interesting twist that we came up with this time. Declaring an El Niño in February for the first time is definitely unusual, but we're doing it, and we think we'll get a verification on that. And that's how things look.